We don't have Councillor Fagan present. Just check we got Councillor Faulkner.
He's there. He's just walked in.
Oh, we have Councillor Faulkner present. We have present Councillor Ferguson. I believe Elise Freeman is trying to join. She's having some technical issues at the moment. We have apologies from Councillor Fulton and Councillor Donnelly as substituting. We have present Councillor Gray, Hamilton, Johnson Dempsey, Keat, Kerr. Just check if we have Councillor Lambie in the meeting. We don't have Councillor Lambie in the meeting. We have present Councillor Lockhart, Logan, Loudon, Mars, McCallan, McGeever. We have apologies from Councillor Razak and Councillor Devlin is substituting. And we have present Councillor Scott, Thompson, Walker and Watson. We also have external representatives Naomi Baxter, Jennifer Gaffney, Joan Lennon and Angela Milton. And with that, I'll hand back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'll take the first item on the agenda. Any declarations of interest? Nope, not that I can see. The minutes of the previous meeting, I'll ask for a correct record.
I'm happy to agree.
Thank you. Councillor Lydon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. As is recorded in these minutes at the last Education Committee, I asked for an updated position on the number of walking assessments that were still to be completed. And if we could have an updated figure on that and a figure on the final saving from the school bus cuts before the council budget was set. I'd like to record my thanks to Anne Donaldson for sending over an updated list of assessments completed and pending, and then for last week for sending me some more details when it became clear that the matter wasn't on the agenda for this meeting either. And this response included the fact that the working estimated saving is around £2 million per annum, depending on outstanding route assessments, contract renegotiations, and of course market forces when that happens. I'm disappointed, Chair, this is now the second meeting of this committee since parents and carers were told that the routes would be complete, and I've had to seek information outside of the committee, again, since it's still not on the agenda. And I'd also like to put on record I'm frankly baffled that the council leader sent an email to every head teacher in my ward last week to say that opposition groups like my own have had, quote, months before the budget to get information on final numbers and figures, when it's now clear from the response from the interim exec director there's working assumptions, there's no final figures and there's nothing more definitive than that. I just want to be absolutely clear to everyone that our group, as we have been all along, stands with the families who are desperately worried about these cuts which are to come. We didn't have the information prior to the budget that we would have needed to produce a fully costed, fully competent and realistic proposal to reverse the administration's cuts on this, and I'm pleased that that's now a matter of public records. Chair, my question on this, could I please have a commitment from yourself that you ask officers that a full report on this matter detailing numbers and costings will finally be brought to the next committee?
Thank you very much. I know the officers are working hard through it, and I'm not sure whether it would be, when it would be competent, or there would be a possibility for that report to be finalised. We want the right things to be in the report, so would that be possible for the next committee, or David?
Yeah.
Or Anne? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, as reported, all families will be aware by the end of March whether they qualify or not. We've been letting local elected members know as and when these communications will begin out about what the numbers look like. So that overall number and picture should be available for a full report at the next Education Committee if the Chair would want a report at that committee.
Would that have anything additional in it that wouldn't already be known by the local elected members?
Probably not at this stage. Obviously, we're going through contract negotiation with the new numbers for secondary transport, so we have to make sure that you know, there's commercial confidentiality within some of that information as well. Again, we were probably looking towards maybe May time before all the final contracts are in place for August transport, so therefore we wouldn't have the costs until then. So if you were looking at a fully costed proposal on what the savings would look like, it'd probably have to be round about June, I would imagine, before we'd have that information.
Can I have a supplementary, Chair?
Yep, if you give me a minute. Yep.
Thank you very much. And thanks, David, for that input as well. It was last week at the Climate Change and Sustainability Committee that David helpfully answered questions which Councillor Clark and myself had posed on this matter, and that was where we finally, for the first time, heard the sort of 31% figure, David, so thanks very much for that. My point here is that, yes, local members have been receiving information. However, there's only been through actions which I've had to take out with this committee and the Climate Change Committee by getting a report, which I say was much appreciated, from the Interim Exec Director. There's not been an overview report which has come to this committee that's pulled together information which does exist, because I have the information for us to scrutinise. So it's a matter of the Education Committee being able to scrutinise decisions that are being made and to see an overview of the picture rather than having to piece it together from speaking to all the elected members in our group. That's why I was making the request, so it'd be appreciated if you could give that some consideration.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just make a brief point? Sorry, Chair.
Yep.
Councillor Loudon's point. I think we're actually remiss of the actual context of the savings. Savings were made not because you want to, because we wanted to interrupt family life for children's transport to schools. It was because of the financial context that we've found ourselves in, because local authorities across Scotland, budgets have been decimated by your own government. So I think that's the context. I appreciate your question and the validity of the report coming forward, but that's the context that these decisions were made.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the monitor items. Can I take the revenue budget monitoring, which is agenda item number 3, and ask Louise to take that? Thanks, Louise.
Good morning and thank you, Chair. So this is the 4th report to committee on the revenue budget covering the period 1st of April through to the 24th of January this year, which is period 11 of our financial year. Section 4 on page 11 contains updated information in relation to our Scottish Attainment Challenge Fund, and for PEF, as at Pupil Equity Fund, as at the 24th of January, we've spent 6.792 million, with 2.494 million still to spend, and we are anticipating a carry forward at the year end of 417,000 that will be aligned to school commitments in the session through to June 25, and that's standard process in line with the guidance, and we can report as we approach the year end that is on track. In relation to our Strategic Equity Fund, the budget for the year is 1.858 million, and so far we've spent 1.680 million, with 178,000 still to spend, and this includes all our staff costs within that committed position. Committee will continue to be updated at the year end around the final outturn position on the Scottish Attainment Challenge funding programmes. Turning to the main financial implications of the report, paragraph 6.1 on page 12, Education is reporting an underspend of 417,000, and this is before the approved transfers to reserves, and this relates to the PEF carry forward that I've just mentioned. The Council has now completed, along with the resources, its outturn position, and after the approved transfers to reserves, Education is reporting a balanced budget. In terms of this position, we do have early years staffing underspends projected for the year, and this is offset by our cost of teachers, primarily in relation to the cost of cover. We also have overspend, as you know, in relation to our mainstream transport costs, and also demand-led placements for our external placements in schools, and as well as additional costs for janitorial and classroom supplies. We're funding this through the use of underspends in early years budget, and we have a projected underspend in the cost of footwear and clothing grant, as I've previously explained, that's after the auto-enrolment process and all children, eligible children, have had their entitlement. There is an over-recovery in terms of our early years fees and also an over-recovery in our other local authority balances, which supports the position. Within the balance position, we are reporting that a number of the budget items that we have trailed across previous reports are included in this outturned position, with the break-even reported. And this includes the cost of pupil transport, a teacher superannuation issue, and also the cost of teachers and the council share of the £145.5 million that was available nationally. In terms of our budget environments, these are outlined at the bottom of Appendix B and report movements in the Education's budget from 1st of November, when we last reported, through to the 24th of January. And again, a couple of the main areas include transfers between our resources, adjustments within our reserves in relation to our expenditure commitments, transfers from corporate items, mainly in relation to the pay award funding and utilities, establishing budget for external income, and also the management of our budgets in terms of how we realign our service delivery in terms of our devolved management scheme in schools, our EMA payments and our PEF programme. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the forecast to the 31st of March of our break-even position after the approved transfers to reserve for our PEF programme be noted, and that the proposed budget environments be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The recommendations are on page 11. Is there any questions? None that I can see, so I'll ask the committee to agree with the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4 is Education Resources Capital Budget Monitoring, which is in pages 17 to 20, and I'll ask Graham to take that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This is our standard capital budget monitoring report, and again also the fourth for this financial year 2024-25, and this reflects the budget, spend and outturn position to the 24th of January, which is our accounting period 11. Section 3 gives the background to the report and explains the budget reflects the capital programme approved back in June 2024, and there has been no change to this budget since the last report to committee. At section 5.1, we're noting that the resources total capital programme for the year is 8.371 million. And at section 2, we're noting a forecast spend for the year, as at period 11 up to the end of January, of 8.196 million. So this relatively minor forecast underspend reflects the timing of spend across this year and into the new financial year, and it will result in budget required in 25-26 rather than 2024-25. The funding for the projects remaining underspent at the financial year end will be carried forward to allow the projects to be completed in 25-26. Our year-end process, we're continuing to clarify the final position for the programme for the remainder of the year, and we're working to maximise spend in 2024-25 where possible. For information, actual spend incurred to the 24th of January is 5.666 million. I would then refer committee back to the recommendation in section 2 of the report that the education resources budget of 8.371 million and the forecast expenditure of 8.196 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Graham. The recommendations, as Graham said, is on page 17. Is there any questions? No. I'll ask the committee to agree the report. Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5 is the workforce monitoring, which is 21 to 28, and I'll ask Elaine to take that. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. As you'll be familiar with this report being the standard workforce monitoring report, which provides you with an update on the employment information for the resource, and this committee we're covering the period December 24 to January 2025. As always, we go through the key highlights of the report, and referring to section 4, obviously notes that the absence position for the resource for January 25 was 6.3%. That did reflect a decrease of 0.5% when we were comparing ourselves to the previous month. And that reduction, as you'll see in Appendix 1, is across both teaching and non-teaching groups. Although when we compare the January 25 figure with the previous year, we'll see that it's actually increased by 0.7%, although that the January figure is 0.7% lower than the council-wide figure. As always, we look at the annual absence figure in the trends, and based on January, the projected annual average for the resource was going to be 4.9%, again comparing favourably to the council-wide projected annual average of 5.8%. I appreciate there is a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, within the resource around maximising attendance and working between personnel, the managers, and obviously working closely with their trade union colleagues as well to try and make sure the appropriate supports are in place. So there's quite a lot of activity going on in the background in respect of maximising attendance. Moving on to section 4.2 of the report, outlining the occupational health information, which you will find in Appendix 2. You'll see there were 410 occupational health referrals made during the period, again showing an increase of 45 when we compare ourselves to the same period last year. As you'll see within the report, that increases against most of the categories with the exception of CBT referrals. Just a wee bit of additional information in terms of ill health retirals. At the point of time when the report was being produced, there were 3 in progress. So in terms of progressing those ill health retirals where people are not able to come back to work, I think you'll recall a period of time before we were having some frustrations and difficulties about the timescales being attracted to that. We're seeing that figure certainly reducing and them being progressed a bit quicker, albeit obviously those within the teachers groups can progress not through the PAM process. Moving then on to section 4.3 of the report, which outlines the accidents and incidents within the period. And you'll see that there was a reported 33 accident incidents which had been investigated and categorised, again as detailed in Appendix 2. There'll be, obviously, it still remains concerning when we see the difference in figures in terms of reporting from the previous year, and I think it's been well recorded and documented at the committees around, difference in variances in terms of catch-up when HRMS was down. There's a lot of work been going on in the Joint Health and Safety Strategy Group, and there's been discussions around, obviously, our health and safety and our key trade union reps that participate as well. We do hope that the new system will be in place within the next 5 days. I know there's been some issues that have been raised around recording, because in terms of whose responsibility it is to make sure that these accidents and incidents are recorded. The new system puts it back to being employee enabled, which means our employees will be able to go in and update that information themselves, albeit the manager can also do it and someone else can do it on their behalf. So I'm hoping that we see a better pattern and a better reflection of the accidents and incidents, but they are being going through the system as quickly as possible and as certainly as we are notified of them. Section 4.4 then outlines employee relations activity. So the only activity that's recorded for this period were 3 dignity at work complaints that were raised with no other activity in employee relations. Section 4.5 then outlines the leavers, and you'll see that there were 31 leavers during the period eligible for an next interview, with 4 taking place. Again, still gives us a bit of cause for concern that not everybody's participating in exit interviews, but we're trying really hard to encourage that uptake in that process. But at this moment in time, it's voluntary, so I'm not quite sure what else we can do at this time, but we just continue, again, just to give that reassurance that we continue to try and encourage employees that are leaving to undertake them. Section 5 then just shows the staff and watch information between the reported date of December against the last return of September, and notes an increase of 46 employees between the 2 periods. And with that, I would refer committee back to section 2 of the report and ask you to note and approve the recommendation to note the employment information for December 2024 to January 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. The recommendations are on page 21. Is there any questions? Not that I can see. So I'll ask committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Heading on to the items for decision, agenda item number 6 is Children and Young People's Community Mental Health Support, and that's in pages 29 to 32, and I'll ask Sam to take that. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. The purpose of the report is to provide a brief update on the arrangements for community mental health funding provided by the Scottish Government to Children's Services, and to seek approval to increase the establishment on a permanent basis by one FTE research assistant post to support the ongoing implementation of community mental health. Section 3, paragraph 1 and 2 sets out the background, noting that the funding is available on a year-on-year basis to support access to community mental health and wellbeing supports. This is in response to the Children and Young People's Mental Health Task Force 2018 recommendations. A full update was last given to the committee in August 2024. The Council's allocation in relation to the fund for 2025-26 will be 839,000. Section 3, paragraph 3 reminds committee about some of the main services provided within the fund. These include the SAMH Let's Connect service, COOTH, Action for Children, Wellbeing Warriors, Young Persons Group, a senior educational psychologist, a VASLAN development officer, and a website has been set up to support children and young people created working with children and young people. Section 4, paragraph 2 gives a brief overview of progress of some of the supports. For example, the SAMH Let's Connect service has now worked with over 8,000 children and young people, 1,242 parents and 1,071 staff in the first 2 years of involvement with South Lanarkshire, involvement in partnership with South Lanarkshire. While 610 young people have used our commissioned digital mental health provider, COOTH, in 2024, and over 2,000 young people have engaged in the Action for Children Blues programme. The website, which has been commissioned since summer 2024, has now been launched and has had over 1,000 hits. Section 6, paragraph 1 and 2 give details for the proposal for funding for a research assistant. There is an ongoing significant evaluating and reporting need for the fund, along with those associated with the whole family wellbeing fund. So a need for a research assistant has been identified. The post will be managed within psychological service, and the numerous strands noted in that paragraph that the post would support, including the attachment strategy and associated training, ongoing review of the mental health website, whole family wellbeing engagement and support, and gathering of information and analysis for the upcoming health and wellbeing survey. In addition, a research assistant could also potentially support the evaluation of Lifelines Lanarkshire and assist. Section 7, paragraph 1 covers the employee implications. The proposal is to fund a 1 FTE post on a permanent basis due to the commitment of recurring funding. The salary range for the post is noted. Before on costs, this would be funded from the Scottish Government 2025 to 2026 allocation as noted above. Chair, I'd refer back to section 2 and ask committee to approve the recommendation that the content of the report be noted and that the permanent increase to the establishment as detailed in section 7 of this report be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. The recommendations are on page 29. I've got a number of questions here, so if you've got any questions, can you please indicate now? And I'll take Councillor Loudon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much for that report, Sam. I'm happy to approve the post as well. We're obviously at 5.1 talking about a significant investment from the Scottish Government here in CYP Community Mental Health, nearly 840,000 this financial year. It says in 5.1 where it's talking about future funding arrangements that the ring fencing for that has been removed, so it's now in sort of wider local government funding. This is maybe more of a sort of wider or political question, so I'll take your guidance on that, Chair. But is it the strategic intention just now to essentially keep that ring fencing ourselves, to keep that amount of money in CYP mental health and whole family support at the moment? Thanks.
Yep, Sam. Oh, you've disappeared. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a mental health governance group set up jointly with social work, and which looks at the funding spend for this fund and LACSAC money, and also the whole family wellbeing fund. I can confirm that 100% of that money for this year and next year is committed to mental health. I haven't listed every single resource there. I focused on, it's kind of split about 60%, 40% between social work and education spends. I haven't listed every single spend in there. There's also other interventions like dyadic counselling being piloted within social work, the early help hubs. So our strong intention is to maintain that spend given the need around mental health, and I would expect the mental health survey that we're aiming to do, as committee knows, at the end of the year to help identify in more detail our needs around mental health and help us continue to review services. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Sam. I think the Council's commitment to mental health and our children's mental health is clear through the various committee reports that we get in this committee. So the funding is welcome, obviously. David.
Thanks, Chair. And it probably follows on a bit from Councillor Loudon's comment. Under employee implications, we're saying that this is going to be a permanent post, and by inference then that's going to be a recurring burden on the council, if you want to put it that way, to finance that post. Under the financial implications, it says funding for the post will be from the Scottish Government's 25-26 allocation, which is fine, but what guarantee, and I know the comment about ring fencing money or no ring fencing money, but what we bring on somebody on board in a permanent post, and it's about the guarantee of future funding of that post via the Scottish Government. Is there any guarantee in that? And if not, it's not really recurring funding from the Scottish Government, is it? Thanks.
Sam.
My understanding of that it has been mainstream, that funding is recurring, and it will be in the overall council settlement.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm glad to welcome the report there. I think people alluded to it, so that basically we are committed as an administration, as a council, to mental health. Is very current and very important, and funding that I would like to see something in the future. Hopefully a secured money, no any doubts about it, that secured money will be met by the Scottish Government in the future for something so important. But thanks for the report.
Graham wants to come in, I think, in the last question, the question before Bert.
Yeah, sorry, it was just to confirm that funding has now been mainstreamed into our settlement going forward. So that is there in terms of that is now just treated as any other, in terms of funding within the council. So that's on the basis of the report, and the post, as I say, on a permanent basis. Whilst I appreciate all council funding is, but it is part of the general grant for going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thanks, Chair. I would welcome the report as well. I think research is a really crucial part in terms of some of the changes that have been made, and it sort of goes in tandem with the work that's going on around the tendering and the new intensive family support service. And one of the key objectives of that was to reduce the high cost number of residential places. And there's regular reports on that go to the Social Work Committee. The last report had highlighted that it was beginning to have an impact, and I think in relation to all of this, when we removed the psychology service, one of the key aims of making it more community-based and third sector-based was that it should reduce the CAMHS waiting lists, and I think I had actually kind of raised that issue before. So obviously something that enables us to evaluate this and all the other sort of indicators in terms of the benefits of referring people earlier on to those kind of community-based organisations. So I think it's crucial we have information
and what the impact is, and if it's the impact that we intended it to have. And obviously, it goes in tandem with what we're doing in relation to all the other areas involved in children's services. And it would be useful probably if there was cross-information between the two committees and all of this. Yeah. But I would ask again if we could get information on, is it actually helping to reduce the waiting list for CAMHS? But no, this absolutely, I think research is crucial in relation to this. Yeah. Thanks, Chair.
No bother. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if that information would be available, Sam, or...
Some information. There was a recent update from CAMHS within Children's Services. CAMHS have had a major reorganisation with a new national spec, and there has been an ongoing need on their service. I can't speak more specifically for the CAMHS waiting list. I do know that as part of this intervention and counselling through schools, there is early intervention available within schools in a way that there wasn't 5 years ago. But I think the CAMHS waiting list continues to be a significant concern, as I think you've outlined. But we will continue to work. We're integrated with CAMHS in terms of children's services, and continue to look at solutions to that together.
Yep.
I will raise through my role as Chair of Social Work in the IGB. It's something I could raise through there.
Yep. Councillor Lydon.
Thanks, Chair. Might be helpful for yourself, Margaret, and for other people. There was a sort of round-up report on CAMHS waiting figures that was out, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, which was up until the end of December. The Scottish National Government standard was a sort of 90% of people getting seen within the target waiting time. And on the last quarter, up until December, that was noted, we're at 90.8 in NHS Lanarkshire. So there has been a definite improvement there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, I will ask committee to approve the report. Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, going on to the items for noting, is the Strategic Equity Fund update, which is pages 33 to 118. I'm sure you all enjoyed that bedtime reading last night. So I asked Jacqueline to take the report. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you, everyone, and good morning, members. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update to committee on South Lanarkshire Council's Strategic Equity Fund, or SEF plan, for 23-24, and an overview on South Lanarkshire Council's Strategic Equity Fund plan for 2024-25, with a more general update around work designed to close the poverty-related attainment gap. So some background information is included in section 3, and paragraph 3.6 refers you to our year 3 SEF plan for session 2024-25, and this can be found on page 39 of your pack. The plan gives a comprehensive overview of the work streams and the impact of year 2, as well as our plans for year 3, and as we said there, a full read for you. So paragraph 4 then gives you an overview of the funding models available to us as part of the Scottish Attainment Challenge, with paragraph 5.2 then giving a detailed breakdown of the 4-year allocations of SEF monies for South Lanarkshire Council. And it's worth saying that post the issue of the paper, it's been confirmed that the pupil equity and strategic equity funding will be made available for another year. So that is now until March 2027 instead of March 2026. Paragraph 6.2 includes a link to the National Operating Guidance to support our planning and implementation of our SEF monies, and paragraph 7 takes you through the 5 key work streams that we support through SEF. Paragraph 8 then references the progress to date with our core measures as outlined in paragraph 9.2, and the core measures are set nationally, with each local authority then setting their own stretch aims to support progress. And as referenced in paragraph 8.1, we have overtaken our stretch aims for 23-24 in both literacy and numeracy across P1, 4 and 7, and our gap continues to close. The work of the SEF plan has been a significant and contributing factor to this outcome. We are also within our planned trajectories for attendance, and as outlined in paragraph 8.3, we continue to make progress across our senior phase. All trajectories for positive destinations have also exceeded our planned trajectories alongside those for participation as outlined in paragraph 8.4. Our new stretch aims in relation to the core measures and core plus measures outlined in paragraph 9.2 can be found on pages 10 to 12 of Appendix 1, and that should hopefully be pages 48 to 50 in your pack. We are required to set these for a 3-year period to support year-on-year progress. So we will continue to report on all measures through our own governance structure, which is detailed in paragraph 10, as well as the reporting structure outlined to Scottish Government with the help of our attainment advisor. Paragraph 11 then explains how school pupil equity funding is allocated, as well as the processes for planning and reporting, as schools continue to have full ownership of these monies. Paragraph 12 links to the upcoming paper on cost of the school day, which is item 9 this morning, and the work outlined in supporting schools to be poverty aware since the publication of our cost of the school day guidance. Section 13 notes that a number of temporary posts are supported by SEF monies across the central team to support and deliver on the outcomes and measures described within the plan and to ensure we deliver on our stretch aims. Chair, I'd like to refer committee back to section 2 of the report and ask committee to approve the following: an update to committee on South Lanarkshire's Strategic Equity Fund and an overview on South Lanarkshire Council's Strategic Equity Fund plan for 24-25, and that more general update around work designed to close the poverty-related attainment gap is noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. The recommendations are on page 33. Any questions indicate now. I'll take Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for that detailed report. There's certainly lots of good stuff within it in terms of stretch aim trajectories and so on. My question, though, relates to 13.1. We, of course, recognise and welcome the need for these temporary posts. But my question is our spend on this roughly in line with other comparable local authorities?
Thank you, Councillor Clark, for that question. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be in a position to answer that. I don't actually know, although other local authorities may publish their plans, I wouldn't have a sense of that. It's certainly something I could potentially ask if that was helpful to committee. Okay, thank you. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jacqueline, for the report. Just please pass on our thanks to yourself and the team who have worked in compiling that comprehensive report. Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, I'll ask the committee to note the report. Agreed. Thank you. The update, agenda item number 8 is update framework for inclusion and equality, pages 119 to 124. Aisling, if you want to take that. Thank you. Sorry. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the impact of South Lanarkshire's updated Framework for Inclusion and Equality, which was launched in September 2024. Section 3 sets out the background, noting that the updated framework aims to strengthen inclusive education, build staff capacity and improve educational outcomes for children and young people across South Lanarkshire. The updated Framework for Inclusion and Equality reflects recent national developments in Scottish education and is designed to support the diverse and complex needs of learners. Section 4 sets out the legislative and policy context which we work within to support schools. It aligns with key national legislation and policies. The key legislative developments incorporated into the framework include the UNCRC, the Morgan Review and ASL Review Action Plan, the Promise Scotland and Included Engaged Involved Part 3. Section 5 outlines how the updated framework takes account of the legislation but also takes account of the contextual developments within areas of inclusion and equality. Our learners are more complex than they've ever been, and our new additions take account of this too. There are 9 sections that are new additions, and all other areas of the framework have been updated. The updated framework was officially launched in September 2024 at the annual Inclusion Conference and since been distributed to schools and partners, both in digital and hard copy formats. Section 6 reports on the impact to date of the updated framework on our education establishments. Feedback from schools shows that all establishments have found the updated framework useful. A majority of early years, primary and secondary schools have reported using it regularly, with most staff feeling more confident in implementing staged interventions. Head teachers have also emphasised the usefulness of the framework in providing a clear point of reference for supporting children and young people, particularly those with additional support needs. Many head teachers mentioned using the framework to better understand the South Lanarkshire approach to staged intervention and to support children and young people with distressed behaviour. Section 7 outlines the impact on broader inclusive practice across the authority. The updated framework has contributed to improved staff engagement. The framework empowers staff to build capacity and provides tools to better support inclusive practice. It enhances pupil engagement because when children feel included, they are more likely to be motivated and actively engaged in learning, leading to improved participation and overall good school outcomes. Tailored support for pupils. The framework has enabled schools to provide more individualised support for pupils, recognising that each child has unique strengths and challenges. It has better mental health and well-being. The focus on inclusion and equality has ensured that the mental health and emotional well-being are prioritised and leading to improved relationships and a more resilient school culture. It has also contributed to closing the achievement gap. By addressing barriers to learning, the framework helps reduce attainment gaps for pupils from different socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnicities and abilities, contributing to more equitable educational outcomes. Section 8 details our next steps in continuing to embed effective approaches to inclusion and equality. We will continue reviewing the framework's impact, ensuring its integration into school practice and improvement planning. Training programmes for staff will be further enhanced through the new Additional Support Needs CPD Inclusion Hub to build capacity in schools, particularly for newly qualified teachers. Chair, I'd refer back to Section 2 and I would ask the committee to approve the recommendation that the updated framework is essential for building capacity throughout education establishments, significantly improving outcomes for children and young people is noted.
Thanks, Aisling. The recommendations are in page 119. If anybody has any questions, can you please indicate now? And I'll take Councillor Thompson.
Sure. Yeah, I'll make it very quickly. Welcome report. Equality is a past year Equality Forum is so important. And what I can say in my assessment is that education in particular, the glass ceiling is certainly cracked, but we're a long way to go before we break it. So good work's there, but a lot to do. But so thanks, Chair, for letting indulge you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bert. We'll go into... if there's no further questions, I'll ask the committee to note the report. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 9 is cost of the school day, which is in pages 125 to 128, and it's Jacqueline again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update on the work of education resources in supporting cost of the school day aims across South Lanarkshire schools and early years establishments. So you will see from the report that Section 3 gives you some of the background to support our approach to cost of the school day in South Lanarkshire Council, and 3.5 stating the existing 10 proposals we have to support our guidance for schools and early years establishments. Section 4 goes on to give an update on our work to date to support cost of the school day since our guidance was launched in March 2024. Of note is the fact that schools across South Lanarkshire Council, as well as our guidance document itself, has been recognised at a national level for our work to support children and young people most at risk due to living in relative poverty. Biggar High School and Trinity High have both been recognised by the Child Poverty Action Group for their commitment to cost of the school day and to ensuring that the voice and views of the young person is recognised as part of this work. Neilson Primary have also been recognised for their work to support attendance through cost of the school day and working within the local community on the costs to families and how these are impacting on attendance. Paragraph 4.3 references our Equity Hub and a number of case studies we have compiled which demonstrate strong practice across our establishments. And if I could share a few examples of these would include Trinity High School, who have supported study classes for their S4 pupils, which start with a cooking class to ensure that young people have a hot meal before their studies. Curluke High School, who have introduced a uniform app which has helped to destigmatise the use of second-hand clothing across the school. And Lanark Primary School, who have established their own kindness committee club where the children are encouraged to carry out acts of service for those in the community who need their help and support. These are just a few of the many examples we have Almost all schools now host nurture trolleys, healthy snacks, promote reduced costs for trips and have a limit on any kind of dress down or charity days. Supporting costs of the school day in our schools has very much become the norm of how we do things in SLC. Finally, section 5 in the report on page 127 in your pack confirms in paragraph 5.1 that all schools now have a cost of the school day policy in place with our strategic equity fund stretch aim. So we continue to support cost of the school day through our school's charging audit process with a view to developing a full school audit tool for all establishments in order to support cost to families across the year as outlined in paragraph 6.1. Chair, I would refer committee back then to section 2 and ask that the work undertaken on cost of the school day be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and there's clearly lots of work going on, and it's fabulous to hear the examples of the stuff that's going on in the schools to help with the cost of the school day. It's a very important piece of work, and thank you very much for everyone who is involved, and thank you very much for our schools for all getting on board and making it possible as well. The recommendations are on page 125, and I've got a few questions. Elise?
Yep, thanks, Chair. Just a brief question. It's important. Sorry, it's an important part of the work. Obviously, concerns trying to increase uptake of free school meals. Our budget proposals contain money to invest school meal programmes, which was unfortunately rejected. With the prices increasing, is there going to be any monitoring of the effects of the increase on the cost to families and the effects of the uptake of the school meals? Thanks.
Yep, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that question. I think in terms of our audit proposals that we have, that could certainly be something we could potentially look at for school costs, and I appreciate that's about school meals, but you know, we could obviously look at how the impact of that on the other costs for families, so we could consider that as part of our audit process.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you. I'm delighted to see this report. This was driven particularly by the EIS in the first instance by a motion that came to AGM best part of 8 or 9 years ago, and was fully pushed by our Equalities convener Nicola Fisher in the Equality Committee. So we are absolutely delighted to see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Really appreciate your comments. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, like others have said, there's obviously a lot of great work that's going on here. Back to school meals briefly again, if you'd indulge me. At the last Scottish budget, the Scottish Government had announced a pilot for free school meals for S1 to S3 pupils. I just wonder if the Council have bids for that pilot, or if we've had any conversations with COSLA or the Scottish Government around it.
Yeah, David, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, we have bid in for that funding for S1 to S3, working with our colleagues in community enterprise, looking at capacity kitchens and a range of different measures and trying to identify schools who are obviously in the SIMD areas we want to try and target as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. If we can note that report, if there's no further questions. Thank you very much. The agenda item number 10 is achievement of literacy in numeracy curriculum for excellence levels 23-24. It's pages 129 to 140. And we're going back to Jacqueline again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, it was me again. Yeah, so again, thank you. The purpose of this report is to update in the recently published literacy and numeracy curriculum for excellence levels for 2023-24. Again, in paragraph 3 outlines the background for the collection of curriculum for excellence data, and bullet 3.4 directs you to appendix 1, where additional information is provided to support the identification of the expected levels for pupils by stage. Paragraph 4 then goes on to explain further how these judgments are made using evidence supported by teacher professional judgment in order to assess pupil progress in line with curriculum for excellence. Paragraph 5 outlines the national picture with bullet 5.1 highlighting that the proportion of pupils achieving expected levels for both literacy and numeracy is the highest to date across primary 1, 4 and 7 combined. The picture is similar for secondary, with the number of S3 pupils achieving 3rd level or better and 4th level increasing for all organisers across literacy and numeracy as outlined in bullet 5.2. Paragraph 6 then takes us to the results for South Lanarkshire Council for session 2023-24 and a graphic format across pages 91 to 96 in your pack. And it's worth noting that this is the first full data collection for all stages P1, 4, 7 and S3 since the pandemic. Paragraph 7 sets out the analysis of the South Lanarkshire results for session 23-24 and bullet 7.1 demonstrates that we are in line with the national picture with all measures across literacy and numeracy, in line or above the national apart from P4 writing and P4 listening and talking. We remain 12th out of 32 local authorities for P147 numeracy and 14th for literacy, and this is one place above our previous placing last year. Bullet 7.3 demonstrates for S3 third level, South Lanarkshire's placed 6th for literacy and 10th in numeracy, and for fourth level, 2nd in literacy and 5th in numeracy. In reference to closing the gap, as outlined in bullet 7.5, we continue to make progress year on year, with the gap continuing to close across all measures. The 2023-24 data represents a positive picture for South Lanarkshire Council and one that we will continue to build on. Paragraph 8 then goes on to outline the ongoing support from the Curriculum and Quality Improvement Service through in particular a raising attainment strategy, increased collection of Curriculum for Excellence data across P1, 4 and 7 and our statistical summary report programme in secondary. Paragraphs 9 to 12 indicate there are no employee or financial implications for further assessment required, and Chair, I refer you back to section 2 of the report and ask to approve the following recommendation that the Curriculum for Excellence levels in literacy and numeracy for 23-24 be noted.
Thank you very much, Jack. A positive report all round, and thank you very much for compiling that. The recommendations are on page 192. Is there any questions? No, none that I can see, so I'll ask the committee to note the report. Thank you. If I can go on to... sorry, Councillor Thompson.
Chair. Just quickly say, I couldn't let it go by without saying fantastic. It's so important, numeracy and literacy, not just for gaining the ways into work, but also for your quality of life. So to see South Lanarkshire doing so well, it's got to, can't let that pass by without saying thanks, all the team. Thank you.
Thanks, Bert. We'll head on to agenda item number 11, which is the YFCL service update, which is pages 141 to 152, and I'll ask Leanne to take that. Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the delivery of YFCL provision for the 2023-24 period. Section 3 of the report provides a short background of the legislative and statutory guidance for delivery of community learning development and refers to some of the interventions supported by youth family community learning, including youth work, both community-based and school-based, diversionary and transitional programmes, community-based adult learning, English for speakers other languages and literacy, family learning, and all of this activity is underpinned by strong partnerships that allow us to identify appropriate pathways into and out of provision. Activity provided is driven by needs and ability to demonstrate impact, so the timetable of activity in different centres, schools or localities will be different. With our most basic measure being participation, people engage with us voluntarily, so if they don't attend, that is our first indicator that we need to be doing something different. Section 4 of the report provides further detail on the centre-based youth work activity that is the lion's share of our provision, delivered primarily but not exclusively from our 9 Universal Connections premises. Paragraph 4.2 refers to the types of activity that will usually be on offer within our centres. Sections 5, 6, 7 and 8 provide a level of detail around the activities that we offer to adults. Our adult learning offer is categorised in paragraph 5.2 and includes literacy, numeracy that is supported by multiply funding, English for speakers other languages, parenting in partnership with colleagues from other services to deliver South Lanarkshire parenting pathways, personal development, creative learning and issue-based activities that are usually health and wellbeing themed. Importantly, we also provide a space in the community where people can mix with peers and can exist without there being a cost attached. This allows them to build social networks. It can plant seeds for the beginning of any type of community activity, and quite often the informal learning opportunities are even the starting point for self-directed community groups or relationships built with peers, all while providing access to food that is stigma-free and that is resourced through our relationship with local supermarkets and businesses who provide food donations. This is accessible for all ages. In 2023-24, 290 individual adults specifically engaged with the service to improve their functional literacy skills. This activity is driven by individual learning plans, assisting learners to meet their goals. So in addition to that, 81 improved their IT skills, 61 improved their employability skills, and 42 got a qualification. Our relationship with social work, Department of Work and Pensions and others ensures a flow of learners into provision, but learners can also self-refer. The Multiply programme enabled us to work creatively with communities to improve their functional use of numbers. While that programme's come to an end, we've did a fair amount of learning that we're embedding in our provision moving forward. Section 8 provides further detail on our ESOL provision that is delivered in very close partnership with the resettlement team. 255 learners accessed our provision that is offered in all South Lanarkshire communities, and during the 2023-24 period this was also offered in the Ramada Hotel. This provision is at a beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate and intermediate level, and the classes are offered at different times to suit the needs of our learners. We gather a range of data regarding the impact and outcomes for all learners, but paragraph 8.2.3 provides some detail in this. 29 learners progressed to volunteering, 93 moved into employment, and 26 received a qualification. Section 9 of the report provides a level of detail on the youth, family, community learning work that is delivered in school or during the school day with young people. This is very much a whistle-stop tour of that activity. In 2023-24, Pathfinders operated out of 7 schools. Research has been carried out to explore the effectiveness of this approach. Each school has 2 Pathfinders, and funding is provided through the whole family wellbeing and pupil equity funding. The function of Pathfinders is to support young people and their families who are on the edges of care. During this period, Pathfinders engaged with 534 young people and families. Paragraph 9.1.5 details some of the recorded impact of that engagement, including 88% of those engaged increasing their participation in school or learning. The YFCL support to care includes input to care secondary cohort and the inclusion and wellbeing service, and this included 54 young people gaining accredited awards. Section 9.3 provides a level of detail activity that is offered during the school day. This varies across localities but can be characterised by the fact that the target group is young people who may be at risk of disengaging. Youth, Family, Community Learning have an awards team that deliver a range of awards to youth, family and community learning service users, but also work alongside staff teams, community groups and volunteers to build their capacity to deliver awards and outdoor learning opportunities. A large part of the team's remit is to deliver Duke of Edinburgh and other awards, but in addition to this, the team deliver non-accredited programmes to develop team working and self-confidence and wellbeing. A recent example being our ESOL families who recently participated in an outdoor cookout, sharing recipes and cooking over an open fire. Section 11 details our commitment to support and participation in volunteering, with some detail provided on the type of activity that our learners are involved in, including the support of the Youth Parliament and its processes. Youth, Family and Community Learning also support 243 volunteers internally as part of our service. A selection of our impact reporting is provided in Section 12. This has currently been refined to take account of the newly developed key performance indicators that have been developed following the independent review of CLD. We are very proud of the supports we have in place to support our team members internally through assessing and verifying SVQs for our own staff, as well as offering a suite of qualifications to our learners. This is informed by our participation in national networks and allows us to shape the direction of future CPD developments in line with emerging trends and identified needs. Which finally brings me to Section 14. Locality reports have been produced highlighting activity and impact that is taking place across 4 localities. This provides the stories behind the data, but a bit of the service-wide data too, and a drilling down to local level impact. These are in very short supply, and reference copies have been made available at member services, but I've got further copies available today or available on request. So if I can refer you back to Section 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that the scale and scope of the services delivered be noted, and the activities and impact of services delivered to meet the needs of targeted young people, adults and families be noted and celebrated.
Thank you very much, Leanne. And can I thank you very much for that report. It's very full, as all your reports usually are, and it's really good to show the width and breadth of what YFCL does. And I think a lot of people might just think it's the youth part of it, but actually the work that you do with adults and people in the community is wide and is excellent, and it's clearly working very well. So thank you very much for that. The recommendations are at page 141, but what I'm going to do is, since it's 11 o'clock, I'm going to take a 5-minute break just now to 5 past and then take the questions afterwards, if that's all right. So if people come back to at 5 past, that would be great. Hi, welcome back. We will get the committee started again. So I've got a couple of questions here. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for that report. Certainly lots of good work going on. Specifically though, under 11.2, I'd like to welcome a lot of that work going on in terms of engagement with our young people and their representatives. Of course, our decision-making process as a council needs to be representative of the entirety of South Lanarkshire, and that can only happen with listening to the views of young people and their representatives such as MSYPs. Specifically though, on the point about the Scottish Youth Parliament elections, in terms of 2023, over 7,500 young people participating. It would be helpful to know that as a percentage or compared to the previous years, but understand if you don't have those figures to hand just now. And my main question relates to how are we planning to boost turnouts for, I believe the next elections are in November time. I think it's important we start that work just now in terms of making sure there is a higher turnout as possible. Every person knows about it. I know there was some issues in 2023 around the elections. Just make sure anything's smoothed out and we start that promotion just now.
Thanks very much. I don't think we had any issues in 2023 with it was other local authorities, but I'll bring Leanne in to...
Yeah, we didn't have the issues because we did the manual count as opposed to the electronic version, which was a bonus for us. I don't have access to the numbers, you're right, I don't have them to hand, but I will go back and speak to the team to find out what that looks like in terms of our previous years. And absolutely, we're always planning for the next stages. And participation in general, we are MSYPs, but also we are participation with our wider group of young people. But those plans will be in place.
Thanks very much, Leanne. Councillor Loudon.
Yeah, thanks very much, Leanne. It's always great to see the work of the, I always get this wrong, YFCL team spotlighted like this. And it's clearly the strengths of the partnerships you were talking about and everyone pulling together that makes this work so impactful. I suppose my point picks up on the points Councillor Keat was alluding to about funding earlier and the choices that different groups make. Our SNP group had balanced our budget amendment with no education cuts and with recurring investment to education resources. And in the case of YFCL, we'd proposed an uplift of 1 million, which was annual and recurring, to support the fantastic work we've just heard about. As we know, unfortunately, administration did make further cuts and there was no recurrent investment in education. So I'm obviously really disappointed that wasn't accepted, and I hope that reports like this, where the scale and the scope of the YFCL service and its impacts are shared with us, that will be reflected in political decision making in the future. Thanks, Chair.
I will ask the committee to note the report if there's no further questions, and head on to agenda item number 12, which is the Celebrating Success in Education, which is pages 153 to 158, and ask Gary to take that. Thanks, Gary.
It is a privilege to bring a paper like this to committee, and I do so on behalf of the many young learners, teachers, head teachers, support staff and our team at the centre who have contributed to the successes outlined. The paper is designed to celebrate and showcase just some of the success achieved by our schools during the first half of the current academic session. The success stories in this paper reflect a broader appreciation of the talent, skills and commitment of our young learners across diverse areas such as sport, including national awards from Sport Scotland and others, music, including many outstanding performances via our instrumental music service, through fundraising and through links with higher education providers. Wellbeing through our anti-bullying, nurturing and fair trade initiatives. Book and literature appreciation from the very earliest stages of our service provision. Digital learning, such as podcasts and work around cyber security, including one a very prestigious national award for a podcast, which involved many celebrated authors. Climate justice, including many national awards and locally developed initiatives. Human rights and the rights of our child as our schools and young people become increasingly aware of the need to ensure children's rights are evident in all our areas of work. As well as sharing these achievements with elected members, Chair, the paper also asks committee to recognise the importance of continuing to celebrate this particular kind of success and the impact that this can have on things like staff morale, pupil attendance and other positive pupil behaviours. We will continue to encourage our schools, nurseries and services to celebrate these successes locally, sharing with their parents, carers and with their own local communities, who of course have every right to be proud of the school and nursery at the heart of their community, whatever level of involvement they may personally have. The resource looks forward to sharing many more stories of success like these and respectfully refers committee to the recommendations on page 153 of the agenda pack. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Absolutely excellent. There's so many achievements in this paper. It's brilliant. And you mentioned the podcast in particular. I spent a morning with the people that were doing that did the podcast, and they were fantastic. I was really excited because books and podcasts are like my favourite thing, so it's perfect for me. But thank you very much for that, and congratulations and well done to everybody who's achieved an award. It's excellent, and I know we've got lots more to come in the next committee as well going forward. So seat 4. Oh.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just to echo the Chair's words, Gary, there's a sheer abundance throughout the report, and it exemplifies the talent throughout our authority. We're in a very fortunate position. At the last Education Committee, I had to plan to highlight the exemplary work of Curlick High School in hosting the annual Holocaust Remembrance Service, and to highlight the hard work of the central team staff and facilitating such a sensitive and emotive event and the manner in which they did that. So just to put that on record for our thanks to Curlick High School for the work that they did there.
It was excellent. Yep. Thank you very much. Councillor Lydon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yep, just to echo the comments before, there's so much great news in here. I think we could all pick out something from our own areas that celebrates the work of pupils and staff and all these achievements. I think Councillor Donnelly has been having some issues with her connection, but I know that she was really keen to welcome the Opal Award, it's the Outdoor Play and Learning Award, which Udston Primary have gained. We know not just from reports in here, but also through hearing reports at Climate Change about the value of outdoor play and learning to children's development. So I think it's really important. I do believe she has been messaging, and I think she's trying to get back in, but just on the chance that she couldn't.
She's back in, yeah.
She's back in. Okay, well, there you go, Mary. I've welcomed it on your behalf anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there is no further questions or comments, I'll ask Mitty to note the report. Going forward, I think from agenda item 13 to 15, you will have read your papers. I'm just going to ask the committee to note the report, going and ask if there's any questions. No. Okay, so I'll ask the committee to note the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I have no items of urgent business, so I will close the meeting at that and have a good day.
Thanks, Chair.